Spaceship is finished. Now let's go get it welded on.
What's up, Brite Nation?
What's up, Brite Nation?
Bet you guys can't guess what we're doing today.
Not at all.
Well, the plan was to pull the motor and the trans, but before we do that, we have some Magnaflow things to do today.
We should probably do some Magnaflow things before it's pretty, and then, yeah, anyway. We just need to do that now while we have a couple of days because we're still waiting on a couple of things to come in to finish the frame so that we can get it out of here. While we're doing that, Beck and I are going to build
an exhaust.
Ta-da!
Which probably won't be easy, right?
Probably not, but we'll make it look easy. Let's show you what we got going on.
So on this table, we have a 2.5 builder's kit, which you can pick up at magnaflow.com, along with V-clamps. And then we have a cat, we have a muffler, and I know Chris said this was gonna be easy and that he was gonna make this look easy. Well, we were gonna make this look easy. I feel like it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge just because we're very limited to space. We're gonna make it happen though.
So I'd already started this last night, one piece while the body was still down because the trans tunnel sits really close here and I wanted to see if I could get anything over the trans, which was what I was trying to do. So this is gonna fit here and I wanted to go up and over the trans right here in that gap and bring this guy right through here, but it just doesn't fit. I just couldn't get it to go. I could go all the way back here, but then it's too close to the shifter tunnel and I didn't want her to have all that noise in the cab right over the trans tunnel. I thought that was going to be obnoxious.
Also the heat, right?
Yeah, also the heat. I didn't want to get the heat all the way up into that and have it sit in this trans tunnel. Another thing a lot of the V8 guys like to do is make the exhaust go around the front. We're limited in that because we've pushed the axle forward and we have the full hydro and we're limited on space now in the front where the radiator and stuff is. I know a lot of guys have done it and it looks awesome. They just use two right side manifolds and they flip this one over and they make it go up and around. We don't have that luxury here. So what we're gonna end up ultimately doing is I'm gonna have to go under the belt housing in front of the trans pan and it's gonna have to run under. Because we've lifted this motor up so high and we've gotten it so close to the trans tunnel, we actually have a lot of clearance under the frame for the exhaust to run under. So we'll run under the frame and it'll come out, I think right about here, and it'll merge, collect right into this one. We'll merge these two together, either here or here, probably back here. I might have a little bit more room to go around the trans and then merge them into here. And then we'll fit a catalytic converter right here, and then behind that we'll put a muffler. And while the body was down and we're at full stuff, it's gonna be really hard to get exhaust over the axle and out the back. So we're probably just gonna do an in front of the axle dump. So if you look up here, we can get that tube to come up. We'll either split it or we'll just do one side over the frame or we'll do both sides over the frame. I don't know. But this is actually going to represent like about where the sway bar is going to be. So we have plenty of room in here to get two tailpipes out. So let's get to cutting. So when the body is all the way down, this upper link comes real close to the floor. So we can't just come this side of that link because when it droops out, it'll hit the exhaust. So we would have to come up and over and around, come through here, which then leads you into here. We can't dump behind the axle because at full bump, I can't get a tube around it. I can't really get next to it because the body will sit down, so I can't go around it. I might be able to do some oval tubing, and then depending on where the gas tank is, we can come through here with oval tubing, but that's gonna get really crazy with angles and the tubing and trying to squeeze it through here. It's still a possibility. I won't know until we get to the end, but I will make a provision that once it's down, if we can make this tailpipe later, we might visit that, but for now we're just gonna make it dump in front of the tires. Can't go outside the frame because you'll have a shock here, so I can't get around the shock. I can't go up and over because there's no room in here because tire articulation. It's just a tight squeeze. So maybe in the future we'll do it, but for now we're just gonna do the side exit. When it's all together, we'll see if we can get out the rear.
So I got some wheels today, and I only got 2 of them in because I can only find 2. So I was going to ask you guys if you have Dirty Life DT2s. These are 17 by 9, 8 on 6.5. I don't care what color they are, just as long as it's the same wheel. I don't even care if they're used. I just really need 2 more. So if you've got them, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd reach out to litebriteracing@gmail.com. All right, we'll get back to the exhaust things over here.
You take pipe A and you put it up in here and you take a mark and then you make that work there. You cut that right about there and it'll work just fine.
And then you weld it there.
And then you weld it there and then I'll make another pipe and then you weld it over there and then we'll have an exhaust. Put that guy back on. We're gonna cut her right about there. So we'll cut that off. If you're wondering why these are brown, in hindsight, I should have cut this off and put a V-band on here before we sent these to Jet Hot to get them coated, but I did not. So we're using this out of the builder's kit, which is another reason why you get the builder's kit, because it comes with the ball for the bolt up that way. We will be sending this piece to Jet Hot too because this coating is amazing. It's good to the 2,500 degrees, I believe. This is their special coating, which takes a lot longer. It's a dual process because Beck really liked this bronze. So we had to go with this process. We will also be doing this in the same bronze 2-step, inside, outside, Jet Hot to try to keep the heat out of the Jeep because it's gonna sit so close to the tub. So we will get these out as soon as we get it finished. I'm gonna go cut that right about there, I think. Just get that guy tacked up, and then we'll cut it back a little bit and then run it under.
At this very moment, I am having flashbacks to when we did the exhaust on the Ferrari and how much of a pain it was to get the exhaust off because of how tight all the space was.
Engineers don't always think ahead, so
This one does though.
they get it all together and then you're like, oh, that's great. How do you get it out? I mean, you know, you gotta pull an intake manifold and a Cadillac to pull the starter. Like, who does that? Engineers.
So as I said earlier, a little bit of space, not a lot to work with, and Chris, this isn't gonna work. So we gotta change this.
Gotta do a little zigzag in there. Yeah, it touches up here. So I gotta get this that way more. So we'll put a little jigger jagger in there and then we'll get the bottom collector in there. So back up with the body. Yeah, so we're gonna have to cut this back. And we'll get this drop down in there, come back into it, probably back here. This will drop down a little bit because we're up against the pipe, but that should be in the vicinity. So we're gonna cut this guy back probably here. We'll cut it back here and then we'll start making this piece. So now we have to merge this tube into this tube. This gets fun. I don't know if I'm gonna nail it first try. I usually screw it up at least once, but if I eyeball from here, the way that pipe is supposed to lay in here, I drew this line. That's about my line for this mark. And then I went over to the table. So there's my line. I'll rotate a piece of pipe up over the top. So when I look down, this is the bottom of it. And on the back side, if you eyeball down the back side, it should be right about there. So there's the back side of my line. Now you know when you look down it, there should be a radius. This should be a radius for a 2.5. So it should go somewhere up into here. So when you look at it, it'll look like a piece of pipe. I know that if I cut this, it's almost gonna be straight from here to here is what I'm gonna cut. So I'm just gonna cut this straight with a bandsaw to here. Then I'm gonna come in straight with a bandsaw to here. We'll radius this corner and it should fit. So let's go try it. And that's what you get. Kind of looks like a boot. Test piece. So it almost fits. Just gotta take a little bit more out of there and it'll fit right in there. So as you can see, it fits really good. There's almost no gap. The front I have to cut down a little bit, but I left it for a minute. And then my original cut was that much too long. So now that I cut that much off, it fits right in there. So now we just trace this out, take this off, and then we'll just cut all that out and then tack all this together. And that's how you build a collector. We might take this link out, but mark this, we'll mark that, and we'll mark it over here. And then we'll take it off and finish marking it up. Ta-da! You just gotta cut this out. I'd cut it out probably 1/8 of an inch inside so that you have some good meat to weld it back to. And then there's your collector. And that's how you do it. You leave yourself about 1/8 of an inch all the way around so that you have something to weld to. Just throw one right there on the side. All right, I'm gonna put the camera down so we can pinch that on there and get the other side tacked up. So now that Beck got it all welded up, before we put these two pieces together, and you can see this fitment is on point. It's like there's no gap. So before we put these two together or even tack them, once we do that, we won't be able to get both of these pieces out. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put a V-band clamp right here so that we can then put this back together and then tack these two together and then take the V-band apart and get this whole section, the whole left side, out as one piece, and then this will be a separate piece. So the next thing we gotta do is put a V-band clamp in here.
So he's got the exhaust pipe marked where he wants the V-band. So we're gonna go over and we're gonna cut it and then put the band on, and then I'm gonna weld it on. It'll be golden.
And then we can adjust how this goes back in and then tack this to the other piece. So the reason I like these Magnaflow V-band clamps is some companies have a machined recess in here. So when you put them on the pipe, they can only go into the recess, which is great. And then you have two surfaces that you can put together and you can put a clamp on them. The reason I like the Magnaflow ones is because depending on the direction of flow, these ones fit tight, really tight, over the pipe. But what you can do is you can give yourself a little flange and then weld this on. And then when you put the other pipe on there, it self-locates and it helps prevent leakage around the V-band. And then this pipe will only go to there when you weld it on. And that's why I like the Magnaflow ones, because you can't screw that up. So now she's gonna weld that just about right there. And then we'll do the other pipe, and then you can push this piece all the way into this piece, and then you know you don't have any gap. And that's how it's gonna be done. While she's welding that up, she'd already welded a V-band onto the end of the catalytic converter. Now I'm gonna take our muffler and chop this end back and get this one ready for a V-band clamp as well. Now you can run this one in. Line that back up with the seam. And then all the way in, now you can tack that one on. Can she do it again? You take this back off. She can take this back apart. And now she can weld that one on. Now that we got the V-band in there, Beck's got it tacked up. Now we can take the two pieces out and she can finish this piece. And we can move on to putting that on there.
So we did add some goodies. I'm gonna go ahead and explain all of that to you. This is a bellow. We added the bellow because the front part of the exhaust is connected to the motor, which is pretty stable. And then the rear is going to be hung underneath the Jeep on hangers because we don't have any stability back here. And what the bellow will allow us, go ahead, wiggle, wiggle. This is gonna help prevent welds from breaking, and also in the future the hangers getting damaged.
I also know what you guys are thinking as far as this cat being so far from the manifolds. Well, truth be told, this is the closest we can actually get them because of all the space limitations that we have. This is the closest I can get it. Like, we can get it a couple inches closer, but then we would lose the bellow. And we really wanted to put this bellow in here to help keep all of the welds good and keep things from cracking and flexing and causing bad things to happen. So this is just as close as we can get this cat to the manifolds.
So I got the bellow on, the cat, and now the next piece is the muffler.
And this is about where we're gonna be because I know the tailpipes have to come right through right about here. So I have to give myself enough room to do a 90 and then another 90. We're gonna split it and probably go out the left and the right side of the Jeep, but I think we're gonna be just fine. All right, again, Beck got it welded up. So here's our up pipe. And then I just have to 90 both ways over these links. So that's what we're gonna do now. And unfortunately, I am running out of pipe. So all I have are 2 of these bad boys left. I think I got it. A little pie cut out of the bottom of both of them, and then I'm gonna cut this one like this. We'll tack all this together, and it should essentially make, you know, a split. I'm gonna doctor these up a little bit and see if we can get them in, and then we have the left pipe and a right pipe for our exhaust, and she should be just about done minus hangers. So that's the piece we came up with for the tailpipes. It's gonna go on that little elbow right there. So now let's get that fitted up. So now we just have to cut that shorter, and it should fit right in this cubby right here, because this is about where the sway bar is going to be. So we're going to cut that down, and we know these links just barely touch that corner edge, so we just need to come down right to the top of these links. And just line it up square and give her a tack. So let's get this tightened up, and then we'll lower the body and see how good we did.
What you got there, Chris?
So I might have saved the day. This is like a C6 Corvette Magnaflow butterfly delete for like their race exhaust on like a C6, and I have kept it because I wanted to keep the V-bands, but this might just work out for us. That way we don't have to build another spacer.
Still have to weld these guys up, and then we'll pretty much be done.
No. Now that we have the exhaust complete, there's still 2 things we have left to do. I have to build a hanger, so I'm going to show you what we're going to do there. And we have to put O2 bungs in it. I'm going to drill some holes about 3 inches back from the manifold flange. About 3 inches back, we'll drill 2 holes, one on this side, one on the other side. We'll put some O2 bungs in it. And I'm going to build hangers. Let me show you what we're going to use for hangers, though. These are pretty cool. So we have these exhaust grommets called snappers. I know you can get them on like Summit and Amazon and all kinds of different places. I've had these for a while. That's why they're dirty. They've been kicking around in the back of one of my boxes. These are so easy and super neat to use. They're more of a solid mounted exhaust system. Like if your engine is solid mounted or pretty rigidly mounted, because these don't give a lot, but these will take the vibration out of the frame and not transfer the sound into the frame. I got to build some hanger brackets for these, and then these are my stainless O2 bungs that I got. These also come in the builder's kit. When you order a Magnaflow builder's kit, it comes with 2 O2 exhaust bungs. So we're going to get these drilled into the manifolds, and I'm going to build some brackets for these guys and show you how I'm going to use them. All right, so if we come in here on this exhaust end, I would drill and tap a hole right here, and I would put this exhaust grommet washer side out so that I can bolt it into here. And then I will build a hanger that'll come from the exhaust and wrap around this insulated on the inside. And then I'll do the same on the other side, and that'll be our exhaust hanger. And it's not really a hanger, which is nice because the weight will be on this grommet, which means I won't tear or pull on this weld, which is what's usually common when you're building an exhaust. If you hang it, unless you put a backer plate on this, in time that hanger will start to rip. I like this idea because I'm going to hang the weight on this grommet. Anyway, so we'll pull some measurements, and I'll build a tab real quick, and then we can drill and tap both of these frames. Alright, so I know that I'm about 4.5 inches from basically, pretend this is the frame, I'm about 4.5 inches from the bottom of this to about 1.5 inches below here so that I can get a good bolt in the frame. With that knowledge, I will build 2 tabs off of this, and we'll get these tacked up so Beck can weld them in. Now, we take your little snapper, put your little snapper in there, into the frame, that's your hanger. They're pretty neat. It's a lot better than using the big rubber donut looking things. All right, so now I got it mocked up. We're just gonna pull some measurements so that I can make it square in the frame and the same on both sides. And then I will drill and tap the frame for a bolt, and then I will show you guys the final product. And then Beck's gotta tack those tabs back in and weld all that up, and that one welded up. And then I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build a template off of this and a bracket off of this top of this link mount, and I'm gonna pick it up and support the center of this muffler from here, because that's pretty much in the middle of all that weight, so that I can just hold that up. I think the rest of it's pretty stout, being this close to the manifolds. All right, now that we got them marked out, we're gonna drill and tap them for a 3/8 bolt, 3/8/16 bolt, which is a 5/16 hole before you can tap it. So let's get those drilled.
Got the tabs welded up that Chris made for the exhaust, and while he's working on the last bracket for the exhaust.
It's not a bracket, it's a spaceship.
Spaceship? Well, while he's working on the spaceship, I am going to go ahead and drill a hole for the O2 sensor, and Chris has informed me that it's good to have it a couple of inches away from the collector. So I'm gonna drill these holes out and do that right now.
Spaceship is finished. Now let's go get it welded on.
I did get the holes drilled out for the O2 sensors, but that's gonna be the last thing to do for this entire project, is to weld
Weld the little bungs in.
little what in?
Bungs.
Bungs?
Yeah, O2
Okay.
bungs.
O2 bungs. Look at how pretty.
Yeah, so this is the basis. It's very strong, it's very sturdy, but I wanted this to hold up the majority of the exhaust. So this actually holds it up. We don't have anything under here. There was a spacer under there a minute ago, but we got about a 1/2 inch clearance to the pan. This is it's solid. It's very solid.
I like it.
These came out very solid. It'll take the vibration out, so you won't get any sound into the cab or anything, but this is very sturdy. I like it. Woo!
Now that the exhaust is finished and looking absolutely beautiful, we are going to carefully take it apart and package it up and get it ready for jet hot, because I really want the rest of the exhaust to match these beautiful headers on this engine. And I'm so impressed with Jet Hot's products and how it just gives it so much better look.
Yes.
And it also has benefits too.
Yes,
for
it does have benefits. They say it saves up to roughly about 50% of the heat. I know you can coat the inside and the outside. I know there's multiple color options and textures. They even do like a chrome color too, to make your headers look chrome. Like, they do some really neat stuff. You should check them out for sure. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. And remember, you can get all your Lite Brite merch and decals
at LiteBriteStudios.com.
And we'll see you later, guys. Bye. Making spaceships. And there it is.
Oh, I didn't know it was filming. Oh, it doesn't stop as soon as I let go of it. It kept pooping.
What are you making?
Bubba tea.
Oh.
So it tells you how much ingredients you need. And I get a star because I did good. Look at the froggy.
Need to put O2 bungs in this, so I'm gonna drill some holes Let's build some blah 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 blah.